we were all in, we were in the same fraternity.
Well, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
Attention to it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, so we go back a little ways. I think,
You
yeah.
have
Those guys go way
Yeah.
back. Chris and Ryan,
Yeah.
childhood.
And
Childhood.
Let me be
Elliot's
clear.
on the pack.
Yeah, and then
Right,
they
right.
opened it up at California.
Yeah.
We were all transfer students.
You're gonna record?
In the Cal Poly, then we did the same fraternity. Yeah, and next week I'm speaking at the Morgan Hill office.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just to talk about Gary, some of the changes we're having.
Never.
Yes.
Yeah.
Try.
Dan will take our.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Tina Walia. I'm the group's vice president, and President Klein is unable to make tonight's meeting, and he has asked me to fill in for him. Welcome to the Cities Association of Santa Clara County Board of Directors regular meeting, September 11th, 2025. And I'd like to call the meeting to order at this point, starting with roll call by Shali.
Mm-mm. Come on.
And Bybee?
Present.
Okay. Oops, that's so yeah. Okay, we have Terry Hines as the alternate. Katie Moore?
Here.
Greg Bazo?
Here.
Lisa Flagger?
Here.
Kavita Tonka?
Rajiv Batejo, alternate.
Great, thank you. Matthew Hudas?
Here?
Carmen Montano?
Here.
Lon Allen? Mark Turner?
Here.
Ellen Kamei? Ed Lowen?
Here.
Rosemary Kamei? Kelly Cox?
Here.
Tina Walia?
Here.
Larry Klein?
Linda Sell, alternate for Larry Klein.
Great, thank you. So with 12, we have quorum.
Thank you so much. Let's get started with oral communications from the public on non-agendized item. This is the time for any member of the public to speak on a matter that's not on tonight's agenda. Charlie, do we have any members of the public, either in the room or remote, who would like to speak?
No one online has their hand raised.
I don't see anyone in the room. So let's move on to the agenda for tonight. The consent agenda item has two items tonight: approval of minutes from Board of Directors meeting August 14th, 2025, as well as an amendment to the Cities Association Conflict of Interest Code. Does anyone want to pull anything or have any questions? Seeing none, let's take public comment, please.
No one online has their hand raised.
Okay, do I have a motion or any discussion, comments needed?
So moved to approve the consent calendar.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Moved by Flagger, seconded by Mayor Hudas.
Thank you.
I think we can take a voice vote.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved unanimously. Let's move on to item number 2, which is the president's update. And Mayor Klein and I spoke, and on his behalf, I would like to say right now that we have unfortunately lost a colleague of ours, and at the end of the meeting, we will be adjourning the meeting in her honor. That is former mayor and council member of Cupertino, Hung Wei. Item number 3 tonight is Santa Clara County Suicide Messaging Workshop. We are going to have Jay Donahue from Santa Clara County Department of Behavioral Health tonight. So, you know, mental health has been one of our main focuses, especially last year, I know, under the presidentship of Lisa Flagger. And it is an important item for us to consider this, especially in the month of September. September is Suicide Prevention Month. So the special guest, Jay, is a communications manager for the County of Santa Clara Behavioral Health Services. In his role, Jay leads planning and implementation of public awareness campaigns addressing suicide prevention and substance abuse prevention. Jay also facilitates Prevention Services Division messaging as well as interactions with media, communications professionals, and the public. I can see Jay's there online. He's going to start the workshop shortly. Jay's experiences have provided him with a unique understanding of the link between impactful communication and direct health impacts for individuals. He hopes to continue to engage with communities through pioneering substance use prevention and suicide prevention efforts and to help reduce stigma around suicide. So, Jay, do I understand correctly? Your workshop will take about 20 minutes and then we can ask some comments and questions so that we can stay on schedule. Does that I'm just filling in so quickly asking you. Does that work for you?
Perfect.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. The floor is yours.
Great. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I know that you have a busy agenda, and so I really appreciate the time. So I will go ahead and jump right into it. And I'm going to share my screen here and look for some thumbs up whenever you all are able to see it.
We can see it.
Okay, perfect. And then let me go into slideshow here. Okay. So, as was mentioned, this is Suicide Prevention Month, and so I'm really happy to be here today to give a workshop that we often give to media and all public communicators and even some youth. We have this tailored workshop that is about preventing suicide with safe messaging and responsible reporting. My colleague Vicky was going to join me this evening, but she was actually unable to at the last second. So you all have just me today, and Vicky will be here in spirit. Before we get started, we often do we have our pre-survey. If you do get a moment, it'd be great if you all are able to see that QR code to scan it and fill out the survey as we get started. Feel free to work on that as we do get going, but in the interest of time, I'm not gonna spend too much time on that with you all today. So the first thing that we'd like to start off with in this is to kind of like level set and share a little bit of background about suicide specifically in our county. So if we take a look at this slide here, we have the total count of suicides, so the number of suicides each year from 2019 through 2023. And you'll notice that a lot of the data that I am going to share is from 2023. As you all probably know, a lot of the data that we get isn't finalized until it's kind of a lag time. We need lead time for it. So usually it's about a year and a half behind because we have to wait on census counts, things of that nature, just to level set a little bit. But so these are the counts that we have each year in our county. And so it generally stays around that 150, 160 kind of area. And the next slide is actually a complementary slide to that. And this shows the rates. So it's the same years, 2019 to 2023. But you'll see that this is taking those counts and then dividing by the population per 100,000. So the reason that we do this is to just give a good understanding of where we sit as a county when we're comparing ourselves to other counties, maybe the state rate, maybe the national rate. So you can see that ours hovers right around 8, usually maybe 8.5, whereas the state's rate is usually around 11. And then the national rate is a little bit higher than that, closer maybe to 13, 14. And so some of that we like to hope and think that that's due to our county's prioritization of mental health, and they give us a lot of resources to reach folks about suicide prevention. And so that's just something we're proud of, and hopefully we can keep that trend continuing where we stay well below the state rates, well below the national rates. We were actually some of the lowest rates of any county in California. And now here we have just a heat map, and often share this slide just to give a good idea of suicide's impact. And so the take home from this is that these are all of the different incorporated areas and cities that we have in the whole county, and it's impacting all of them. So there is not one area that is not touched by suicide. It's touching all of our communities. And so the reason why we have this training here today is to try to partner with folks about the way that they talk about suicide and particularly the way that folks will report on suicide. That is the larger feature of this training with safe reporting, but it's all built on the crux of safe messaging itself, which is any conversations that we're having about suicide. And so the reason that this was identified, or this is such a priority for us in our program, is that the World Health Organization identified media reporting as a priority for suicide prevention strategies. So you'll see it here that it's highlighted in green. Now, the background of this is that there are research studies that have been shown, over the years, over the decades, worldwide, that certain types of news coverage and media coverage can increase the likelihood of suicide in vulnerable people. And reporting, specifically reporting on suicide, involves the risk of contagion. So, contagion is actually defined as suicidal behavior that spreads quickly through a group after exposure to reports or portrayals of suicide. And specifically, it's young adults, adolescents, teens that are at the highest risk, with one notable paper that does take look at around 13% of adolescent suicides happen in clusters. Unfortunately, there has been a recent cluster in our county, and that's just going to be it's defined differently, but largely it's considered to be three suicides in close proximity to one another in about the same time range, usually within a year. And so those studies have been done across the world. So this is not an exhaustive list. Austria, Australia, Germany, Hungary, Japan, they're all over. And specifically risk from that exposure through like headlines and reporting and different messaging that comes especially through social media now. It increases when the story explicitly does certain things, like it describes the method, it uses dramatic or graphic headlines or images, and then if the death is sensationalized or glamorized in some way, we don't see that as often now, with like public discourse changing a little bit around suicide and mental health, but it still does happen. And then there are other contributing factors, which is just whether they're kind of inundated with this on their feeds, their social media feeds, seeing on the internet that they're searching. So the frequency and the placement of reporting. So if it's very, very high headline news. And so this is a phenomenon that is also not specific to youth. Yes, it does present the greatest risk of contagion for youth, but it's not specific to them. So many of you may remember when Robin Williams unfortunately died by suicide in 2014. I will skip over a lot of the data in the interest of time, but basically following his death, in the 4 months following his death, there was a really sizable excess of suicide deaths that were unexpected um, right after that, and particularly impacting males and people who are aged 30 to 44, right in that middle-aged men range. And then also specifically with the same method, which was suffocation, because a lot of the reporting that we saw nationally at the time was stuff like this, with a headline that is Robin Williams apparently hanged himself with a belt. So we'll see here that as we get into the safe messaging and safe reporting guidelines, that there are some problems with this. And then we also have a notable example with 13 Reasons Why, a very popular Netflix show a few years back that you may recall was actually noted for depicting a suicide itself like pretty vividly. And there was a lot of blowback because there was an excess of suicides in teens and young adults just following it. So they were actually sued, and they changed the series opener, and then they re aired it later on with that scene removed because of the contagion that was caused. And so what we can do though, after looking at some of these examples, is talk about why providing information on it carefully is so important. So we can change public perceptions and we can correct myths. So a really good example of a myth that we hear a lot in suicide prevention is that suicides happen totally suddenly without warning. That's actually not true. So warning signs, most people we know who do die by suicide actually show warning signs. It's just, are we equipped to pick up on them? So that's why it's so important for us to learn about the different suicide warning signs, especially in the way they present themselves with different cultural groups, different, being different age groups. Are you a veteran, different race, ethnicities? Are you a member of the LGBTQ plus community? They can manifest themselves in very different ways, but we just might not all be ready or able to see them. The second thing that it can do is it can promote awareness, particularly of resources like 988 and Crisis Text Line or ALCO centers, you name it. Especially because suicide is the most preventable form of death. And then finally, as you touched on a little bit with contagion, it can reduce the risk of contagion. So what we like to do now is just dive in a little bit to the reporting recommendations. So again, this is about reporting, but safe messaging at large. And so these are based on the international guidelines for reporting on suicide. So a bunch of public health experts and worldwide organizations all came together and created these guidelines, and that's what this training is fundamentally based on. So one of the first things that I can walk us through really quick is how we want to frame anything, how we're talking about it. Suicide is something that is really complex. So we want to try to avoid overly simplistic explanations for suicide. So there really can't be, in most cases, you cannot or attribute a suicide to a single cause. We may see headlines that say a person died by suicide or a person killed themselves after something, after bankruptcy, after divorce. We really don't know. Yes, could that be a contributing factor? Very much so. But we really don't know what's happening for that person, and we may never know. So that could just be a contributing factor, along with so many other things with struggles with other parts of their lives, injuries, different things like that. So it's really any kind of time we talk about suicide, it's an opportunity to explain that it's complex and that there are warning signs and that there are a lot of contributing factors that can be a part of someone dying by suicide. Next is the circumstances, how we're going to talk about the circumstances and portray them. So what we can do is address that myth that I talked about a little earlier. Avoid describing suicide as totally inexplicable or without warning, because again, it can reinforce that belief that it just kind of happens out of nowhere. No one saw it coming. Yes, can that happen? Of course. But there are so many suicide warning signs in person's, appearance, their behavior, their thoughts, the way they express themselves, so many different ways, and we just need to be ready to receive those. So I'd like to include a link here, which is suicideispreventable.org. Honestly, if you do a Google search for suicide warning signs, there are awesome resources out there. This is just one. The second here is avoid relaying the method and location, very specific details about a suicide situation and event. This can lead to copycats. And so the term copycat sounds a little bit kind of juvenile, but it actually is an industry recognized term for when a person models their suicide attempt after something that they saw. So we can help avoid that and prevent suicides by limiting those details to just what the audience needs to know, that a person died by suicide, and that was why there was police presence. That's why there was EMS. And then finally, we want to avoid speculation. Again, we have here, we don't know and we may never know. I really think that's a great way of putting it. Instead of speculating about something and saying, oh my gosh, they did just go through a divorce, that's probably why. It's better to explain that there are many factors that could be contributing. Sure, of course, again, the divorce may be, but they may also have recently found out something that they've been dealing with their family, or they lost a friend, lost a pet, those kinds of different things. Like I'm just kind of throwing the baloney at the wall. There are tons of things that can contribute. And moving into the easiest ones, in my opinion, is just how we communicate it. So I like to embrace this even when I talk to like my brothers. It's really common when suicide does come up for people to use terminology that's pretty stigmatizing, but it's just so part of culture and the way we talk to each other very casually that they don't realize it. But most people pretty quickly will be like, "Oh, I didn't mean to like make anyone feel bad." and this is a really simple way of doing it. So try to avoid saying things that like suicide was successful or unsuccessful because it makes it a little academic that a person failed or did not fail at trying to kill themselves. And then the big one is commit suicide. So we often say that someone commits suicide. But what else do we use the word commit with is you commit a sin, you commit a crime, you commit murder. So those are things that can feel stigmatizing for folks who have experienced suicidal thoughts before. And so it's much easier to just share something like they died by suicide or they killed him or herself. It's also good if we can try to avoid saying things like, suicide is an epidemic, things that kind of elevate the alarmism around suicide itself because it is a public health issue. So it's better to keep it a little more simple and data driven and just say that, rates are increasing or decreasing, rising or falling. And then finally, reporting on suicide as a crime. So it is often reported as a crime. It will fall under crime in news sections and so forth. And the police presence takes kind of a high, like high level in the reporting itself. But if we can avoid that, because this is ultimately just a struggle that someone's dealing with their mental health, and report on it as the public health issue that it is. And then finally, the suicide note and resources. So this is the second one that I think is a really good one, an easy one always to share. We always want to include resources. I'm kind of taking this slide a little bit from the bottom up. Always want to include resources anytime you're going to talk about mental health suicide. And even our local media have gotten so good at this. Folks who talk about it, folks who report about it. Normally now it wasn't this way 5 years ago when I first started, but now it's almost like every story you see usually at least has something that if you or someone you know is experiencing suicidal crisis, dial 988. There are plenty of other resources. Crisis text line is up on the slide, which is you can text anything to 741-741. There are in-person resources all throughout the county, different cities. And there are also plenty of other resources like the Trevor Project, different things for different cultural groups. The Veterans Crisis Lifeline is accessible through 988, all those things. And often one of the things that we try to avoid working up to the top here is avoiding putting anything about a suicide note because again, this is a very intimate thing that a person's experiencing. So if we can try to limit the sensational side of it, that will help reduce copycats. It will help folks who, rather than someone who's expressing something very hard for them at the time in a note, someone could kind of read that and say, well, I've experienced something similar, so maybe suicide is like an alternative that I should look to here. So it helps avoid with those copycats as well. Looking at the time, Shali, thanks for giving me the time. I normally have an exercise and I did share an article out with you all. I don't know how much time we would have to fully go through it, but I would love if folks have gotten a chance to take a look at it, or if you get a chance to take a look at it really quick now. If anything stands out to you, we don't have to dive in too much. Anything stands out about that article, considering the recommendations that you're like, oh, I think maybe they shouldn't have done that, or they could do a little better.
That article is in the agenda packet.
Thank you, Shali, for that. Thank you so much, Jay, for your presentation here. And as Shali said, the article is in our agenda packet. And talking about suicide prevention, I have to say we have in the past had former Palo Alto Mayor Victor Owakian, who has come in and he has been one of the leaders in our county, very publicly talking of the challenges and made sure that, if I remember correctly, every city in the county has passed, right, Jay?
Yes, you are right. Vic Ojakian he's the chair of the Suicide Prevention Oversight Committee. I'm sure a bunch of folks on this call know him very well. And yes, Vic was like a kind of a huge leader in spearheading getting a prevention policy for all of the cities in the county.
Thanks, Jay. So we have the article here, and one of the other things that I would like you to highlight, once again, I know your previous slide. So what is call or text 988? It's an easier number for people to remember. It's a newer number. Everybody's familiar with 911. Could you highlight again 988?
Yes, of course. That warms my heart. So I've got, I don't know how easy it is for folks to see, but I've got this really cool background that I'm very proud of. Our county's communications team for behavioral health put these together. So 988 is the new number for the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So it's just the idea is to get something that is as easy as folks recall 911 in a moment of emergency, for like, their the house is on fire, they call 911. We want that same thing to be the case for if you or someone you know or see is experiencing a mental health crisis, really need to talk, all the way up to, thinking of suicide in that exact moment. Just dial 988 and you can either call, you can also text, and you can also chat online if that's preferred for you. And so in the county, I will say specifically, again, because of our prioritization of mental health and safety around this, we are actually like a leader in the country of how we can handle folks who call 988. So we are specifically outfitted to be able to work with folks of all walks of life. And we can send mobile crisis response teams. We have a bunch of different mobile crisis response teams. So when you call 988, they'll basically triage it on the phone. Like, is this something they can de-escalate in that moment with you just on the phone, or is it better to dispatch a team and they'll talk to you and figure out what the best route is for you in the moment?
Thank you so much, Jay. Let's quickly take public comment before I open up for comments in the room. Shali, do we have any public comment, remote or in the room?
No one online has raised their hand.
Okay, let's close public comment, bring it to the board here. If someone wants to make a comment, Mayor Lawing, after that, Vice Mayor Cox.
Yeah, you said that the clusters were a factor in the county. Can you give any more dispersion on that? Is it in 5 cities or 10 cities or 1 city? One of them sadly is ours. So I'm just wondering how widespread it is.
Sure. So Palo Alto is the notable one. So Palo Alto, there has been a cluster, and the initial, I wouldn't say necessarily the initial, but a cluster in the Palo Alto area was actually the reason for the suicide prevention program being started. And that was back in 2009, I believe.
Right. So I'm asking, within the county, are there 3 cities or 10? I'm just wondering how widespread the cluster situation is.
So it's just the one. It's just Palo Alto with the clusters. Yeah.
Vice Mayor Cox.
Thanks, Jay. I'd like to understand a little bit more about what you see as duplicative efforts in these mental health resources. I know that Santa Clara received an opioid settlement income, and out of that, we chose to partner with CASCC. I don't know if the attitude is the more services, the better, or if when we look at a county resource, we would put more people in touch with a service if we doubled down on the efforts for one service. So, and when we split up into multiple mental health services being offered by multiple cities, it almost becomes a privatization of mental health services. And I don't know if that dilutes the effort. Is that a question? I don't know.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if I follow the question in all honesty. So are you asking like where I think there are duplicative efforts between the county and cities themselves?
Yeah, I wondered when we started partnering with CareSolace if instead we should be investing more into the county of Santa Clara's already existing behavioral health efforts. We put a significant amount of money into, I think, what is already being executed on your end. I guess my question is, the more the merrier. Is that okay? Or do you think that we have a responsibility to partner exclusively with the county to make this almost like the most impact? And again, I think that if I was looking for services and I saw 1,000, that might be a great thing. Or if I saw one name repeated over and over, I would know this really is where I go.
Yeah. And so my answer is going to be admittedly a bit of a non-answer. I would love to say the more the merrier, but I see your point. We do partner with cities, and I would say when it comes to like something like 988, that's operated entirely by the county. So if that's like a service, basically this should be kind of I would promote it as like the kind of gold standard one-stop shop, and it would be great. We welcome partnership with all cities if we can get 988 materials out there and then get the kind of the recall on it, because it really is something that you can go to. You mentioned opioid settlement. You can call 988 if you're dealing with a substance use crisis too, and they'll still help you out. So I think it would be great to partner both with the county for those bigger things, and then maybe we'll have the recall just keep going up and up for 988 like it's already ubiquitous for 911. But if there are, I would also say at the same time, if there are some city-specific concerns or city-specific resources that the county is not a part of, but they're integral to like that community, then I would also say that it's a good idea to keep the foot on the gas for those.
Does that help you, Vice Mayor? Thank you. And I'm sure we can get Jay's information from Shally, and Steve Preminger from the
Yeah.
county is right here. Our friend, thank you so
Yes.
much for coming at every meeting.
We
Vice
have
Mayor-
we have a ton of like just to speak to 988, we have a ton of informational materials that are totally shareable, and we want to get them to everyone. So if folks do have questions or like, hey, can we get some stuff? Please feel free to email me.
Thanks, Jay. Vice Mayor Lisa Fliger.
Thank you, President. I just want to follow up on Vice Mayor Cox's question, Jay, and thanks for being here and thanks for the information. My experience is the services that the county provides complement a lot of what we do in the cities. So for example, Mountain View, Los Altos Hills, and Los Altos, we funded, previously known as CHAC, no specific clinics, but our schools and cities contribute a certain amount of money to these programs to fund our local mental health services. But I know they partner with the county. For example, they tell all our kids about 988. And so I view the county services as a complement to what we do. So for example, we don't have 24/7 resources, whereas the county does through 988. So there are things that we definitely complement and work with the county on with regards to mental health services.
Thank you
Good
so
say
much.
definitely agree. So I agree that I don't find things to be duplicative. Maybe that what you said better what I could not, which is they're complementary.
Any other thoughts, comments? Vice Mayor Self.
Are there certain best practices that certain cities are doing? And then could that be shared with the other cities? Like, I don't know if there's like 3 cities in the county that are doing really great, and then their best practices are, shareable with the other cities. Just a thought.
So what I would say is no and yes. So there are some cities, and this is obviously a lot of it can be very resource based. So it's going to be different for different cities. So an example is we're able to like the city of San Jose has a lot of resources when it boils down to it, resources including like money and dollars that they can specifically allocate for 988. So that's just, I think of 988 as just an easy example. So the city of San Jose is able to deploy a lot more work in that area as opposed to maybe a smaller city with a smaller budget where they have to make some different decisions. I will say, just to give some examples of some great things that we've seen in partnership with cities, is things like establishing a protocol for when there is a death, that their police department, so Milpitas, for example, Milpitas has the Milpitas Hope Task Force, which is a suicide prevention task force. They've set up a protocol where if there is a suicide death in the community, their police department will work with a city official and the head of the Hope Task Force to make sure that they're all aligned on when they'll issue kind of a statement about it and what that statement contains, and it follows these guidelines. to make sure that it's sensitive to a grieving community. Is this timing right? Making sure that we're not including explicit details that are unneeded, all to help with the community and including like resources in it and those types of things. And the other thing that I think of is whether cities work with their school districts on approaching the county if we can help, or just setting up with postvention services and prevention services. Whether that's, following a suicide, sending in some type of service like the county can maybe help out with folks who are grieving with like a postvention service. And then also prevention services, with their school ID cards. There's different legislation from the state right now where they're required to put mental health resources. In some cases, we can provide those just for you to print on the back of the student ID cards. We can give presentations, give you materials, that kind of thing. So it's pretty expansive, and I wouldn't say there's like a shining beacon city that's doing one thing better than all the others or something, but those are some examples I can think of.
Thank you so much, Jay. I think there are a lot of resources the county has, and if the board has any specific questions, please send them to Shally. She can get the resources and connect you with Jay or with Steve. So let's move forward.
Is that okay?
Mayor Hudas, I
Oh.
want to keep it on track.
Go ahead.
Unless it's really
No
urgent.
problem. No.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate your understanding. With that, let's move on to item number 4, build the future affordable childcare.
Jay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jay.
Bye.
I didn't mean to start you.
No, I was thinking the same. Thank you. So we have once again a presenter online. Her name is Jariah Hogg. She's an associate director of Care Policy, Working Partnerships USA, and the primary organizer for Build the Future. Build the Future is a project of Working Partnerships USA, and it's a campaign dedicated to educating the public, elected officials, and decision makers about the importance of child care. So, affordable childcare is critical, especially to working families, especially in our county of Santa Clara. Many of you know that Supervisor Susan Ellenberg has been focused on childcare across the county for the last few years. I would like to welcome Jariah to present on this tonight, but I just want to jog your memory. Once again, this is an item that 2 years ago in 2023, when Supervisor Ellenberg was bringing a lot of light to this issue, 14 of the 15 cities in our county passed a resolution of some form in support of childcare. With that, the floor is yours, Jariah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the warm introduction. Hello, everyone. Hello, city leaders, mayors, vice mayors, and honorable city council members. My name is Jariah. It's like Mariah, but with a J. I'm the primary organizer for Build the Future, and I have been to all of your city council meetings, and virtual and in person, but you have me in person tonight. So I'm going to give you all a quick overview of what Build the Future has been doing and what we will continue to do as we move on into the next year. And we have an invitation for you all afterwards as well. All right, so Build the Future. As mentioned, Build the Future is truly an educational campaign. We strive to encourage residents to prioritize childcare as a public good. We bring education resources to residents. We go to city council members, talk about them, the importance of childcare, and how important it is to have affordable, accessible, and high-quality childcare. And childcare boosts our economy, not just for our families, but for everybody, even including people without children. And I also just wanted to highlight that we have a lot of partners behind us. And as mentioned, Supervisor Ellenberg is one of our co-chairs. Marina Well, the Executive Director of Working Partnerships USA, is the other co-chair. But we have a lot of supporters and folks who donate to our cause and continue to support our ongoing efforts. So just to give a brief overview as well, so the problem that we are trying to solve is that our children and parents are being left behind. There isn't a universal childcare option available for folks if they need to work and also take care of the children. Oftentimes this leaves our parents, usually our parents are typically, women of color, bear the burden of, having to not take that job promotion, not being able to go to work, and not being able to properly care for their children. And so this causes a huge problem in raising our children, and not only that, in our economy too. As a result of a lack of childcare, we have $122 billion of lost earnings, productivity, and revenue every year across America. The Council for Strong America did a report in 2023, and so I just wanted to highlight that and remind everybody that childcare supports our children and it supports our economy, and that's what Build the Future is really pushing for. We're pushing for ways that we can invest in our community, invest in our children, because our children are our future. So Build the Future, we have 3 pillars that we follow. We're really trying to change the narrative on childcare, talking about how it's a benefit for everybody. And we have a social media page, our Instagram, LinkedIn. We use reels and storytelling to really highlight the stories of childcare providers, parents, folks who use childcare and talk about the benefits of it. And we also did a huge press conference a couple months ago. A few of you were there. I have a picture of it later. Talking about what Build the Future has done, including the resolutions and also other solutions that we can use to really support our working families. We also do grass tops movement building. So speaking to you all, decision makers, I'm talking to city council members. We're moving on to start talking to school board members about the importance of childcare and working with childcare providers in order to have good inflows for their early education. And finally, our bread and butter is grassroots movement building, being able to connect parents, meet them where they're at, and meet them in their city, in their specific region, and connect them with ways of advocacy, of ways that they can meet with other childcare providers, meet with other parents, and to really raise awareness about the issue of childcare. And so our progress, this is the press conference that we had a few months ago to celebrate the resolutions that were passed. And so, as mentioned earlier, we did pass childcare resolutions, just explaining the importance of childcare and talking about why childcare is important in their cities. And we passed it in 14 out of 15 cities. Santa Clara County also did a childcare resolution declaring that day of Childcare Awareness Day. And from these resolutions, we actually were able to, and I know that Vice Mayor Flagor is also in the room. They launched a childcare subsidy pilot program in their Parks Department. Only 300, or I think it's 300 or 30K. You can correct me, but to start that pilot program. And we are going to continue recommending policies for city council members. We're going to start having a menu of options, like these are some options that you can do to support working families, whether it be investing in a childcare pilot program, upgrading your general plan, your land use designations to help more childcare providers come into your city. And so that'll be coming in the future. I'll talk a little more about that later. And of course, we're also growing our grassroots support. I actually saw a few folks at Viva Calle San Jose this past Sunday, and we also did a paid ad campaign on Instagram and Facebook, and we were able to garner more support from just regular people every day who really care about childcare and are really feeling how expensive it is to live in Santa Clara County, and they really want a solution that'll help put more dollars in their pocket and be able to ensure that their children receive the best care that they can, especially in that critical age of 0 to 5, because 0 to 5 is really when the brain truly develops, and it really helps them when they enter TK and kindergarten. And we also do community awards. Last year we did Dads for Build the Future. We actually had Mayor Montano came and visited and presented us with a cert during the event, highlighting dads in our communities that do amazing work in their communities. They're working dads, stay-at-home dads. They're the ones who are really championing childcare. And so we do community events like that. And that brings me to my, I think, final slide too, is that now that we have these resolutions passed, we want you all to start looking into ways that you can really help support our working families. And so we have a free event coming up. You have it in your board packet as well, the flyer. It's on Friday, September 26th in Redwood City. I know it's a little far for folks, but it's really worth it because Redwood City has a lot of co-located childcare and housing facilities. And so what that means is that the childcare center is on the ground floor and then they have housing above it. And so we're going to do a tour. We're also going to have a panel of childcare providers, housing developers. One of them is actually a housing developer from the city of San Jose. They're doing a project at Tamian Station in South San Jose. They're going to come and speak to us. And also a Redwood City planner. And so you can hear from them specifically about how Redwood City is encouraging the creation and operation of childcare. We're also inviting San Mateo County City Council members as well who do a lot of work in childcare and trying to leverage city resources to really help their working families and folks who want to use childcare. And so you can RSVP at the link on the flyer. You can also email me if you're interested or have any questions. I did email everybody as well, so you should have received it in your city's email or ask your city clerk about it. This is for city council members and city staff. So if you're unable to join, if you have a day job, we would love to have, your city planners join or your economic development director. This is an event for everybody, and we really want this to be a learning opportunity from you and as a networking opportunity to meet folks in San Mateo County who have more expertise about how they're leveraging housing and childcare and really bringing that to their cities. And Redwood City is also a really awesome place to visit. We're going to be in downtown. We'll walk around. We're going to feed you too. We'll get breakfast and lunch, so you don't have to worry about that. But it is on a Friday, so I am mindful that, a lot of you have full-time jobs. So if you're not able to join, please send a staffer. They're more than welcome to join. And that is my presentation. I wanted to keep it brief, but I'm here to answer any questions if you have any. This is my email, and I hope that you all can join us for the policy symposium happening, I think, in 2 weeks now, next Friday.
Uriah, thank you so much for your presentation and your contact information. That way people can reach out to you directly. So let's take a couple of quick comments. Since I did cut Mayor Budas off last time, if you have a comment, I'm going to start with you. I'm just trying to keep this on track because I know a couple of the board members have to leave around 9. Anyone else in the room? Any comments? None? Do we have public comment?
No one online has raised their hand.
Anyone in the room? Public comment? Seeing none. Once again, thank you so much for the work you do and thank you for presenting here tonight, Uriah. Deeply
Thank you so
appreciate it.
much. Have a good rest of your meeting. Bye.
Thank you. Thanks. Let's move on to item number 5, which is review of fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. And this is an item which is going to be presented by Executive Committee member Elliot Scazola, who is Cities Association's treasurer, and Charlie will also support the information. So I'll hand it to both of you.
Thank you very much. So good news, everybody. As you saw from the report attached to the agenda, our fiscal year 24-25 budget, well within budget. We ended up with surplus funds in the amount of $36,723. And tonight we're asking the board for feedback on what should be done with those funds. So with that, to start, I'll kick things over to Shally.
Thank you. Your staff report kind of details some of the highlights of where we underspent. We got a little boost because Gilroy joined us in January. So thank you for that.
Free fun.
Thank you, Mayor Bowser. Good call.
Thank you. One of the places where we've overspent, and I know that we've mentioned this before, it's when we hold our events. When our events are not sponsored, catering is the largest cost for holding those events. And as food prices have gone up and as cost of living has gone up, I feel like the amount of money that we've been allocating is really not enough. I got that figure, $3,000, from the previous acting executive director when I took this job in 2022, and a lot has changed from 2022 till now. So if you ever see us like asking for more money in that budget line item, that's fine. But the staff report goes into more detail. If anybody wants me to explain anything in more detail verbally, just please let me know.
Let's take questions. This is the time, budget.
So
Any
can,
questions?
can it be carried over for the fiscal year,
Are you asking about the
The-
surplus?
the surplus?
Yeah, so that's what I'm asking the board tonight. How do you want me to handle the surplus?
Oh,
Should I keep it in our bank account where it's easily accessible, immediately accessible? Or should we put it in our LAIF account, which is our investment account, which it's still accessible but not immediately available? Or we can kind of split it between the two. It's whatever the board wants to do.
And I will add, though, it's important to note that the LAIF account is a 4.4% interest bearing account. So our normal account, it's practically nothing, right?
It's a checking account, so. it's
Zero,
not-
right? Or close to zero, if not zero. So that is one of the benefits of moving it over there. However, there is that one, what I think it's 30 days. I forget.
think it's about
It
30.
requires 30 days to pull funds from that account, though. So there's a, benefit, but also that could hinder us in some way. So this is what we're asking the board is where do you want this money to go?
And I should also mention that we are working on a reserve policy and an investment
Yes.
policy for this organization.
Is there a recommendation?
I would recommend, I'm kind of a nervous Nelly. I like having some money in the bank account in case of some unexpected expense, which while I've been here, I've never seen one,
Mhm.
but I don't know. You could have
So
one.
half and half is the recommendation, or is it?
You could do half and half. All of your cities are sending in their membership dues or getting flush again with cash. But I think half and half would make sense also.
I like that.
Vice Mayor Flagler.
Thank you. So thanks, Shelley and Elliot. Can you remind us how much we have in our reserve fund? And I know we're working on a more robust policy, both reserve and investment policy for the organization. But before we had, I can't remember if it's 3 months that we wanted to have in reserves. Can you remind us what it currently requires and how much we actually have?
So on our LAIF account, we have about $26,000, 26 and change. And from previous staff reports on the budget, I can tell you that the burn rate for our organization is roughly $17,000 a month. It might be a little bit less than that. As you can see, we've kind of underspent this year. And I think previously we were hoping to have 3 months in the checking account, which is immediately accessible. And then anything over that, we were going to transfer to the LAIF account.
Okay. And so how much do we have in the LIF account right now? Is it 17,000?
26.
26, okay.
Councilmember Hines.
So it sounds like the recommendation would be to leave the 26,000 in the checking account and grow that to 3 months of, what's that, 51,000, as a target to get to. Is that the recommendation?
So we have 36,000. The 26 is in the investment account, which takes us 30 days to get
Yeah.
the money. So of the 36,000, you could put half of it into LAIF, which is roughly 1 month's operating expenses, or you can put all of it into LAIF or none of it into LAIF. Like I was hoping that the board could discuss tonight and see what they'd like to do.
Vice Mayor Moore and then Councilmember Kamai and.
He keeps having his hand up.
Theo.
I gotta put this hand up.
Was he first? Can
No,
anyone?
no, go ahead.
Okay, Vice Mayor Moore.
Okay, thank you. So with regards to what to do with that money now, I feel like that's a little bit off of the agenda item, and I would prefer that we would have the investment policy created first. We're kind of doing that on the fly here, so that's a little concerning. I do want to bring up for the holiday functions that we're having, you budgeted for the summer 3,000, you had 450 in revenue, it looks like. 5,094 in expenses, costing us about 4,500. And then the December party budget 3,000, revenue 3682. I don't quite understand. Maybe you can explain why the revenue is so much better for the December one. But revenue of 3682, expenses of 9543, so about a $6,000 cost. So between these two events, budget for 6,000, but we're spending 10,500. Is there something that we can do to improve that?
Yes, we can get sponsorships. So last year's summer event didn't cost us any money because El Camino Hospital sponsored the entire event. And as I mentioned, catering is the biggest part of that, right? This year we just for the summer event, we decided to not charge any ticket prices. We thought that you all pay your dues, and so you should not have to pay ticket prices. The December event we always have tickets for, and sometimes we hope to sell $3,000 worth of tickets, and last year we sold more than that. You know, it was very popular, and I hope it is again this year.
Is that something where the cities are buying the tickets for the council members, basically?
Yeah, I mean, it's however your city
I
wants
think
to.
it's probably on an individual basis. And then one of the other issues it raises too is the gift requirements. And so we often try to seek sponsorships so that it's commensurate with the multiple sponsors, so it doesn't cause gift issues. But that's with sponsorships, that's always something that we consider.
So could this one item be a future agenda issue where we discuss how to make the numbers match the budget somehow? That would be great. And I'm not really sure what for us to make for a recommendation with regards to your surplus at this point. I'd rather hold off for a month and then have a discussion next time about what we want to do moving forward.
When you vote on the reserve policy, once you voted on that, then make the decision.
I prefer that you just leave it. I know it's a month in a low interest bearing account. I'd rather not move it all on the fly unless you have some sense of what your daily operating budget is or weekly, what you need to have on hand for your cash. Because that's something that we're actually working on for our cash management policy to see how much to move into these higher interest bearing accounts so that staff isn't caught short. Okay.
So Vice Mayor Moore, thank you so much for that.
I have one here.
I just want to respond to her point, Councilmember Kamai and then Mayor Hudas. So I do take your point. Just to clarify, I checked with our attorney here and she said technically, if we wanted to, it's noticed for providing direction on the surplus. And it's really up to the pleasure of the board whether you'd like to postpone that to have this discussion at the same time as the reserve policy, but it's on the agenda tonight if you wanted to provide that direction.
So then for that, we would really need some cautious recommendation regarding how much is needed to stay in the operating account versus what would get moved.
From a policy perspective, I just want to make sure legally.
Then you can do it.
Yeah, we can if we wanted to. I hear you. Councilmember Kamai.
Thank you. I just have a clarifying question. It wasn't clear to me, right? The revenue, the excess revenue is 36,723.15, and the investment fund has 27. So there is the checking account, which is the day-to-day account. How much is in that?
I'll have to get back to you with the exact number in the checking account.
Because you mentioned earlier that the goal was to try to have 3 months reserve, 3 months, sort of rolling, which makes a lot of sense from a policy point of view to kind of have that in the bank. And so my question is, if we had, you mentioned the 50-50, right? Which seems reasonable. Would that wouldn't give you the 3 months in the bank? Right? So I think that, leaving it there, I mean, I know that the payments for the memberships are coming in and you'll be able to move them, but I think there's sufficient time to, I mean, I don't know if you have any big expenses coming up or anything like that, but I think there is time to make it sort of like, work in conjunction with, you know, the money coming in and the money you need to leave in there. And because once a policy is confirmed by the board, then it would be sort of a rolling thing that the minute the money comes in, you can transfer it over and not have any issues.
And I'm hoping that becomes more automatic once the city of Sunnyvale starts doing our finances.
And when is that?
We're working on that.
We're working on an agreement right now, just some contract language, but once we take over, we'll monitor daily cash flow needs, we'll handle investments per whatever policy is adopted by the board. You know, we'll make sure we have the money on hand to pay the bills. We'll handle all the payments. We'll produce all the financials and deal with the audit.
Thank you.
And then support the exec director on budgeting.
Thank you.
I think if I can alleviate some of the fears about putting money in LAIF versus not. First of all, to your question, there, if you take the surplus plus what's in LAIF now, you are above your reserve total, which I think is what you were asking is. So you're at like 60, those two numbers added together around 60 grand, right? So you're okay there if you're trying to carry 51,000. If you assume you need $17,000 a month, that's about 50,000 in cash. LAIF is what you're talking about is liquidity. Like LAIF is a liquid fund. As Elliot said, we can get to it within 30 days. So it's liquid enough that it shouldn't be an issue. I think what decision, if you want to wait per Vice Mayor Moore's suggestion, that's totally fine. I agree. I don't think anybody's gonna. I don't think the JPA is gonna go out of financially broke by not getting 4% interest for 1 month. So we can definitely make that happen. You could also choose to do the split of 50-50. If I was gonna support the recommendation, I would go the 50-50 split is it's safe. You're gonna be fine with that.
Mayor Hudas.
Yeah, thank you. As Vice Mayor Moore pointed out, the big expenses that changed were the two events. And, you know, by far, everything else was fairly predictable along, except for maybe a little savings on insurance and some other clerical IT. But the regular operating costs are the things that might, you know, not be predictable, but the events, those are a conscious decision of the board to go ahead and do those. So I think though to do that kind of expenditure again, we'd have plenty of time to access money that's in a higher interest-bearing account. So considering, you know, if things are the same this year and we're looking at a large expenditure, I think it's wise to take the money and to split it and in the way that's been proposed, and that we will have plenty of notice to access that money for the kinds of things that actually drive the budget higher.
If I can just make one quick comment, I agree with that 100%. But if I can just make one quick comment, to tee this up, this is not agendized, but I'd just like you to know that right now we're trying to plan the holiday event, and I think $75 last year. There's no way we're going to be able to do it for that. So we're going to have to come back to the board with a higher ticket cost, just so the board is aware of that. I don't have that number. It depends on how fancy we want to be, obviously, to some extent. But to do the same type of event that we did last year, we're not getting quotes that are near that. We're we're in the $150 to $200 range right now and working on getting it down.
And one of the things we did last year, which helped, we did get a sponsor. We got a sponsor for the summer event. And so it does help, but there's no guarantee. And so we plan worst case scenario and hope for a sponsor. But that's where we started until we got a sponsor to bring the cost
So
down.
we're trying to get it down, but it's not cheap these days.
The
And
treasurer wants to speak.
I believe if I'm wrong, please correct me, but I believe we also got the venue donated last year. So if you thought it was expensive as it is, we got the venue for free. So just think about that as well. It's like, yeah, costs are outrageous right now. And
I'd like to make a motion.
Please, Mayor
Make a
Turner.
motion to do the split 50-50.
Second,
Okay, before I forget, any public comment, then we'll get into discussion or vote. Any public comment online?
No one online has raised their hands.
Nobody in the room? So any further discussion? There is a motion by Mayor Turner, seconded by Vice Mayor Bateja to split 50-50. Did I see a hand raise?
Yes.
Mayor Hudas.
Just wanted to make a comment that I appreciate Vice Mayor Moore's suggestion that we look at it with the investment policy. But given the short time we have available on each of our agendas and the very low risk that we would have an issue accessing the money in time for the event, I will be supporting the motion.
Other comments?
I do want to say that where we saved a lot of money was in professional services. We budgeted at 204,000, came in at just under 170. So I appreciate the efforts that were made to keep that cost under control and helped a lot. Thank you.
I saw one other hand raised. Vice Mayor Kim.
May we at the next meeting have the balances of the accounts provided for us? Okay, and I'll support the 50-50 split. Hopefully we don't get caught short, but we don't actually know what's in the checking account and how much the budgets have been, how much spending we're doing each month. So hopefully we're gonna cross our fingers. Yeah, you have money coming in, yeah. So hopefully that'll cover everything.
I think I appreciate your willingness to move forward and at the same time ask for the information. Tim, does that, based on what you're saying, are we in a good place with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, any other quick comments? I think we are ready we have a motion and a second. None online. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I don't see anyone opposing. Anyone who wants to abstain? Zero abstention, correct?
unanimous.
Okay, so it's approved unanimously.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much for your support and thank you so much, Treasurer Aliet Scazola. Your working with Charlie is deeply appreciated, and I know there's a lot of streamlining going on, and the city of Sunnyvale is already helping us and will be helping us further as the agreement gets sorted out for the financial handling by them. Okay, we are now at item number 6. It's the announcement of the nominating committee for 2026 executive committee member candidates. And this is an announcement, so I'm going to be speaking on behalf of President Klein on this one. Shani, please correct me. For the bylaws, it's the president who chooses the nominating committee. Correct. And there's a process in place in the bylaws and the agreement we have, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
There's a process for the election of the executive board, and it starts with the president announcing the nominating committee.
okay. And there are 3 seats on the nominating committee.
Correct. And there's requirements.
And so,
Only two members of the nominating committee can be on the executive committee.
okay, okay. And in the past, we have typically had 1 seat to fill on the executive committee per the bylaws and the other agreement. And Jenny can correct me. My time on Cities Association, and Nisa can also correct me if I'm wrong. the typical process is the board has, generally speaking, approved the secretary treasurer moving up one level and so on and so forth. And the year's president then next year continues to serve on the executive committee to provide feedback, all the knowledge base, and serves as the past president, as this year Nisa Fliger has been serving. So with that, again, I'm speaking on behalf of Mayor Klein, President Klein for this body. His committee, there are three names. He has proposed himself, President Larry Klein, Vice President Walia, and Director Montano, that is Mayor Montano, to be on the nominating committee. And I will read a statement from him. If you're interested, any of the members here, if you're interested in joining the executive committee, please contact any of the nominating committee members or Shally by Wednesday, September 24th. And Shally will be sending a reminder. I do believe that the final vote, there will be nominations at the board meeting. It will be open to take floor nominations.
Correct.
Have I missed anything, Keith?
So in October, the nominating committee will present a slate to the board for their consideration, and the vote actually takes place in November.
Okay, so sending the requests to Shally by September 24th, the October board meeting, the slate is presented by the nominating committee.
And nominations may also be made from the floor.
In October, and then in November, the board votes.
Correct.
Vice Mayor Fliger.
Thanks, Dina. I just have one thing to add as part of the process. So we now have the nominating committee, and you have until September 24th to let Shally know if you're interested in serving in any of the positions on the executive committee. When we have multiple applicants for each position, then the nominating committee conducts an interview, and then they will recommend a slate that gets brought to the board meeting in October. There have been years where we just get one applicant for each position, and that makes it easy. We just present the slate, but that's the process. So if you're interested in applying and interviewing, then let Shally know, and then the nominating committee will then have a process.
So just so I know what I'm collecting, last year what we did is you would email me a letter or an email stating which position you're interested in and what your qualifications are for that position. What I did last year is gather all of that and give it to the nominating committee for their deliberations. So am I collecting the same? Like you would tell me what why you're interested and what your qualifications are for that role?
That's absolutely the way to proceed.
Okay.
Again, I'm speaking on behalf of the current president.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any questions on that? Okay, let's take public comment. Seeing none, let's move on to item number 7, which is a possible date change for October 9th, 2025 Board of Directors meeting. And this is a discussion item and a possible action item. Basically, we all know that October 8th, 9th, 10th is the CASCC conference in Long Beach. And Shally has worked with President Klein, and Shally reached out to all of us to figure out who is going to be attending the meeting in the county, whether in person here or remote, but within the county, because that will count for quorum. There are other members who will or who have mentioned that they will attend from the conference place. They don't count for quorum. They can attend the meeting. And I am sure Shally has an update for us from the notes that I received from Mayor Klein. It seems that last he knew we should have a quorum in the county, and yet he's waiting for one mayor to choose their city's representative designee for the evening. So I'll actually turn to you, Shally. What is the latest information?
That is the latest. So when I sent out the email and the reminder, I heard back from all of you, and I presented all of that information to the executive committee. At that point, when the executive committee met, I had not heard from 5 cities. So I didn't know whether we would have quorum one way or the other. So Mayor Klein reached out to the ones that we hadn't heard from. And I have not spoken to him about which cities he's heard from, which he hasn't, but it sounds like we're one city away from quorum.
Do you know which city, Shelley?
No, we didn't touch.
So we are waiting for one of those few cities to confirm that somebody can attend from the county. And that would make quorum. That would get us quorum.
Is Campbell one of those cities?
I do not know. Actually, I
could answer the question.
So the only comment I can make is a request to each one of you. If you're the member on the board or the alternate person, can you please make sure that Shally has the information, whether you're attending or your alternate is attending, or from the county, or even remote. No, it could be in the room or Brown Act noticed within the county. That will count for quorum.
Under teleconference rules.
So I can tell you what I presented at the last executive committee meeting. Those who've confirmed that they will be in Long Beach. Well, let's start with Sunnyvale. Kavita Tonka from Los Altos Hills, Greer Stone from Palo Alto, although I need to further confirm with him, Ann Bybee from Campbell, and Nisa Flagger from Los Altos. Those four will definitely be in Sunnyvale. Those who will be in Long Beach include Mayor Gudis from Los Gatos, Councilmember Walia from Saratoga, and Mayor Bazo from Gilroy. And I did hear from Mayor Turner that all of your council is attending the conference.
The four of them are, I'll be on the East Coast.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we won't have anyone from Morgan Hill. Mayor Kamei said that she will not be
Emily will
attending
be
this
there.
board meeting. Sorry.
I messaged you.
Yeah.
Emily will be there.
Oh, Emily will be there.
Yes.
Okay.
The vice mayor. No, at the conference.
Okay, so
Okay.
she's not quorum, because that's what but it's good
Yeah.
to get all
But
cities.
she wants to go to represent the city because are you still getting the room?
Well, I could get, that's my follow-up question after we figured out.
What I remember was like, were
Yeah.
you gonna do a conference room or?
That's part two.
Yeah.
So the first part is.
Emily is going to Long Beach and she would go to the conference room if you have one.
Thank you. That's helpful. The
Yeah.
first part is we need to get quorum in the county.
Yeah.
So the meeting can happen at the time that is our regular meeting time. And then the second part is if they can arrange for a room.
We weren't here.
In Sunnyvale or
Here.
no, within the county, if it is noticed ahead of time, Brown Act,
As a
correct?
teleconference, yes, because this body. It's the body covers the county. They need to be, it's bizarre how the different rules work, but under teleconference, they can be anywhere in the county. Or they don't have to be in the room. If it's 2449, then they have to be in the room.
So what's the option about changing the date? Is that an option? Oh, I'm sorry, you're still
No,
doing the
no.
roll call, okay, or whatever.
Yeah, we're still on that, and there's a hand raised, Councilmember Komai.
Yes, I did speak with Larry and he specifically says, can you come to Sunnyvale? So he didn't meant, and I said, yeah, I'm planning on coming to Sunnyvale. So, I definitely will be here. I don't want to be by myself, but I will be here.
You get more pizza. Rest of us eating the pizza.
Where is
I
everybody?
just saw four names, Los Altos Hills, Campbell, and Palo Alto, four.
And
So
then
you-
now
San Jose.
and now San Jose.
So we
So
need
that
three
will be
more.
5 in person here in Sunnyvale.
And I had not heard from Cupertino, Montessorino, and Santa Clara, but I don't know if Mayor Klein reached out to you.
I'll be in Long Beach. So you're needing 7 or 8 here.
We need 8 in the county.
Here, okay.
Not necessarily physically, yes.
All together somewhere in the
I need to
county.
check
you
with
need
the
8.
internet. I will not be able to attend either. But and Sud says mark no to Long Beach, but I don't know then if he can attend Sunnyvale if that was an option. So I can follow up.
Okay, that's essentially what we're looking for, so that Mayor Klein, President Klein can make that decision with Shally. Any other questions on that? Then I'll turn to Mayor Turner. He had a follow-up question. So if that date doesn't work, your question is then what's the alternate date for the agenda?
Yeah,
item
are we
from
gonna
that?
decide tonight if that date doesn't work? And if not, then forget my question. You can keep working it by way of email, I guess. Is that an option?
I don't see that noticed here, that we are going to decide the date, and I'm not sure we are. I don't know.
It's a scheduling thing. It's not a scheduling thing.
Can we?
You can do that.
Okay. Did everyone come prepared? I don't know. Mayor Montana?
So we could also do it by.
So that will be October 9th,
We are-
Thursday.
We are trying to confirm whether October 9th we have quorum in the county.
Okay, no, I will be out. I will be in Long Beach and so will my alternate. All of our city council is attending the Long Beach conference, so.
So there are 3 or 4 cities that have that situation. Vice Mayor Flyger.
Thank you. And this question is for the attorney. Jenny, just to clarify, going back to Mayor Turner's question about whether or not we need to make a motion. Is it possible for us to either give direction or make a motion saying, in the event we're not able to reach quorum, then this is the alternate date that we want to have the meeting? Yes. Okay. So let's find that alternate date. So, and then Larry would have authority.
Okay.
Could we look 1 week out on October 16th?
All right, so that would be the alternate.
Why do we have to wait till we get a quorum? Why don't we just move it to the next following week?
Because I think Larry, if it's possible to have it on the 9th, I think he wants to have it on the 9th. So if we can get quorum on the 9th, I think that's his preference, but if we're not able to, then he wants an alternate date.
I appreciate what you're thinking, and I'm happy to go ahead with that motion. I don't know if everyone is prepared. Somehow that date I can commit. Some others I may not be able to say yes or no. My only concern is what is President Klein's schedule? He's the chair, and if we choose a date
Right.
and that does not work for him, I would feel very uncomfortable. Can we make the motion that if it works for him, can we tweak it in a manner?
We can make the motion that delegates authority that you do the scheduling and without the Brown Act violation. Right,
It's
Jen?
not, and it wouldn't, it'll be a one-way, we can avoid all that with just a one-way communication with Charlie. She could even do a doodle poll and scheduling wouldn't violate the Brown Act as long as you don't talk about any of the subject matter that you discuss in here. You're allowed to do the scheduling.
So that would be the motion.
Do a
Okay.
doodle poll, do a doodle.
Yeah.
The doodle poll.
Or was it motion to
So
delegate?
we delegate authority to the president to identify a date for the next meeting. Step 1, whether or not there's quorum for October 9th, and if not, to work with their executive director to identify a second date.
Okay, once we have done that, or prior to voting on that, may I suggest one other thing? We are all sitting here. Somebody mentioned date. Let's get a gut reaction, not vote on it. Does the 16th work? Can we do raise hands? Is that appropriate?
Scheduling here.
Yeah. 16th, 7
Still
PM?
out of town that day, so, but I could get my alternate here, so that's,
Okay.
that would work.
You don't
Yeah,
have a
so-
council meeting, because for me,
No.
the biggest thing is, does anyone have a council meeting, regular council meeting on October 16th?
We do.
Regular or
Yeah,
special?
Regular.
Okay,
Let's have Larry and.
yeah,
and
exactly.
Charlie figure
I'm
out
not going
something.
to touch that one.
Yeah.
Because moving a meeting to a regularly scheduled city council meeting means you're taking the voice of that city away.
I second the motion.
Wonderful. Okay. Public comment?
No one online has their hand.
Okay, no public comment. All those in favor of the motion made by Vice Mayor Flyger, seconded by Mayor Turner, to delegate authority to do a doodle poll, once confirming October 9th. We don't have quorum in our county. I'm just rephrasing to jog everyone's memory. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any oppose? Abstention? Passes unanimously. With that, let's quickly move forward. We have,
May I ask a question? So when you figure out whether you're having it here or changing the date, then we'll figure out whether anyone needs a conference space in Long Beach to attend that. Thank you.
So Charlie, just, it's getting so complicated and there's so many. Is it helpful if everybody confirms with you whether or not there'll be a representative? Since you don't have that information?
Yeah, the information that I have may have gotten outdated because some people are saying they will be at the conference, which I didn't think they. So
So
yes,
you could send an email out to everybody asking them to confirm.
them or your alternate or anyone from your council.
I think we have a lot of cooks in the kitchen. We just have Charlotte so you can just send everybody out an email tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you, Jenny. That's helpful to get updated information. Okay, with that, let's move on to item number 8, which is, how are we doing time wise? Okay, let's rush quickly. We are a little behind. We have a report from a regional appointed representative, that is Palo Alto Vice Mayor Vicky Winker, representing the Bay Area Air District, called BAAD. I don't like to call it that. So formally, we are all familiar with it being called ACMET. And since 1955, the Air District has worked to improve air quality in the Bay Area. Future challenges such as climate change that we are all noticing, or it seems to be the case, and reducing diesel emissions will require sound science, creativity, and community involvement. And above else, air quality is very critical to public health. So, Vice Mayor Winker, thank you so much for making the time. Thank you for representing us on Bay Area Air District. And we are waiting to hear from you. Thank you.
Just let me know when I should advance.
He's left you.
Well, thank you very much, Madam President, for the invitation to be here tonight. As was mentioned, I am Santa Clara County's, one of Santa Clara County's representatives to the Bay Area Air District. In fact, I want to thank this body for appointing me back in 2023 and then reappointing me earlier this year. I have been just really, truly loving my service on this board. And last year I began to chair the Policy Grants and Technology Committee, which has been a real pleasure. And then this year I was elected as vice chair of the board. And so that's a good thing for our county. And I also want to introduce our Deputy Executive Officer for Public Affairs, Viet Tran, who is just terrific. And if you have questions I can't answer, he probably can. Next slide. So who are we? Our chair gave a little bit of an introduction that yes, we were not only formed in 1955, we were the first multi-county air district in the state. And our jurisdiction does encompass all 9 counties around the Bay, which would be 101 incorporated cities and over 5,000 square miles. So we have 24 commissioners on our board. So half are county supervisors and half are city council members. For this county, we have 2 supervisors that sit on the board, Supervisor Otto Lee, well, president of the board now, Otto Lee, and Supervisor Margaret Abitoga. And then from the Cities Association, the appointees are me and Mayor Sergio Lopez. So our mission is to improve air quality and protect public health. And the public health piece sometimes gets lost in the politics, but I personally can't forget it because just about every month we have residents come and tell us about family and neighbors that are suffering from pulmonary disease or unusually high rates of asthma in some of the highly impacted areas around the Bay. So it is really front and center as a public health agency. But of course, mitigating climate change and its impacts is a huge co-benefit of the work we do. And our mission has evolved over the last 70 years to ensure that we protect all Bay Area residents from air pollution. So we are really proud to have adopted last year an environmental justice strategic plan to reduce historical and current environmental inequities. So next slide. The plan that's going to pop up there in a minute.
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Thank you. Was created by our Community Advisory Council, which is comprised of community representatives who provide advice to the board on programs and policies that impact all communities, including overburdened communities. So in February of this year, the CAC presented its plan called Environmental Justice, a Call to Action, to the Board of Directors. And the purpose was to chart, how to reinvest in frontline communities who have been most impacted by air pollution. And what's wonderful about this plan is it is expressly tied to and coordinated with the Air District's overall strategic plan. So it's not just a pie in the sky, piece. There are action items and timelines and tied strategically to the overall plan. So that's great. We're really proud of this first of its kind plan. And if you want to see it, it is on our website. So next slide. So what does the Air District actually do? Well, we monitor and forecast air quality, as well as develop clean air plans and regulations. We issue permits and enforce air quality standards for stationary sources. So not mobile sources, cars, planes, trains, automobiles, that's CARB, the California Air Resources Board. We do buildings and stationary sources, like refineries, landfills, and auto body shops. And one example of an enforcement action that you might have heard about just last week was that we announced a $160,000 penalty against a sulfuric acid manufacturing plant that was in the city of Richmond, who was violating our regulations. So that's the type of thing we do. We also offer a variety of grants and incentives to support clean air, which is done primarily through my committee, which, yes, it's really fun to give money away for folks who are cleaning up the air. And finally, we also partner with stakeholders like the US EPA, nonprofits, cities and counties on policy and projects to protect the air. So next slide. So very, very quickly, air pollutants include fine particulate matter. You may have heard of PM 2.5, toxic air contaminants, and chemicals that form ground level ozone. These pollutants are linked to serious health issues, like I mentioned, asthma, bronchitis, emphysema. And increasingly, it's linked to additional things like heart attack, stroke, diabetes, and even dementia. And unfortunately, science continues to provide us with even more new information about the detrimental impacts of air pollutants every day. Next slide. So cities can play a significant role in reducing unhealthy air that's due to particulate matter, because sources include diesel exhaust, wood and wood fire smoke, and road dust. So planning and land use decisions and local building codes can all help reduce particulate matter in our neighborhoods and in our homes. The next slide. And then one more. So the impacts of air pollution are not necessarily felt equally. So we're particularly concerned about vulnerable residents, including children, pregnant women, seniors, and people with pre-existing cardiovascular or respiratory disease. And often communities of color and lower income neighborhoods face greater exposure, and they often have other compounding stressors like limited access to healthcare. So to address those concerns, we have developed various partnerships, and people who know me well know I'm often talking about AB 617 communities, which are heavily impacted and under-resourced communities. There are 4 in the Bay Area: East Oakland, West Oakland, Bayview, Hunters Point, and San Francisco, and Richmond around all the oil refineries. And because air pollution does not respect city boundaries, it's really important to understand that their problems are our problems as well. So over the past year, we did some other cool things. If we could go to the next slide. So to help address the disproportionate impacts I described, we established the Community Benefits Funds Policy. And this policy directs that penalty funds collected from businesses that violate our regulations get directed back to the communities that were impacted by the violations. And so far, our penalties and settlements have generated more than $124 million that go back to the local and regional air improvement projects. We also created a community investments office to help oversee that and to ensure that those funds are directed to those communities. Next slide. And last October, we established a new Office of Civil Rights to safeguard against discrimination, address disparities in policies, and help embed civil rights scrutiny across our operations. And this office will ensure compliance within the Air District, as well as raise discrimination issues outside of the Air District. Next slide. Trying to move quickly because I know y'all have other things. All right, so grant scholarships and incentives. We have three terrific grant programs that I'm going to name, but I'm going to skip over the slides in the interest of time, and I'm happy to tell you more individually. They are the People's Air Grant Program, the James Carey Smith Community Grant Program, and the Marie Harrison Environmental Justice Scholarship for college students. Yes. So if you go to the next slide, this one I'm going to stop for a minute because I want to call out three additional recent programs. So in March, the Air District launched the Charge Grant Program to distribute $10 million to offset the cost of purchasing and installing new chargers for light-duty EVs at multifamily housing facilities, at transit parking locations, and at workplaces across the Bay Area. And the goal is to build a network of chargers to support the Bay Area's EV adoption goal. I don't know if you know what it is, but it's 90% of the overall vehicle fleet by 2050. So we got to build a bunch of chargers. Also in March, the Air District opened the Clean Heat Program to help offset the cost of switching from wood burning stoves or fireplaces to electric heat pumps for whole home heating. A lot of you all may not realize that there are a lot of people still within the Bay Area, primarily in rural areas, that do heat their home with wood. And so that's something that is not a healthy practice. So we're trying to help them transition out of that. And finally, the Air District continues the vehicle buyback program. So basically, if you have model year 2000 or older vehicles, we will buy them back, and that gets older cars or small trucks off the road. Next slide. So, next slide. What's of interest here in Santa Clara County? I'm going to name three that will be familiar to all of you. The first, familiar to Mayor Manano. Newbie Island Landfill is located along the Bay Shore in San Jose, and it borders Milpitas. It is a Title V facility, meaning it is a major source of air pollution that requires a federally enforceable operating permit under Title V of the Clean Air Act, and it is a significant source of methane emissions. So the Air District sponsored a South Bay odor study where two consulting firms conducted an odor assessment for sources in the southern San Francisco Bay, and Newbie Island was identified as one of the primary sources. So we receive hundreds of complaints a year. I think that DEO Tran actually went to one of your city council meetings. So we will continue to work with Newbie Island and continue to monitor that and try to assist in reducing odors from its operations. Next slide. The Lehigh Cement Plant. It's in unincorporated Santa Clara County, west of Cupertino. Lehigh excavated limestone from an on-site quarry for use as a raw material in cement manufacturing, as most of you know. Nitrogen oxides, sulfur dioxide, and particulate matter are the primary air pollutants that are emitted from cement manufacturing. And the good news, as most of you know, is that Lehigh is permanently closing its facility. So they submitted an application to the Air District to terminate their Title V permit. So we will confirm that their emissions are now below Title V limits and cancel permit. However, their reclamation plan is a 40-year plan that may require some additional permits. So we will also keep an eye on that. Next slide. Data centers. They're here to stay, and we're going to have more of them. So that they require constant, consistent power, and therefore they need backup generators. That are also sometimes called engines to maintain power. So currently there are over 60 facilities and 460 permitted diesel backup generators in our county. And of course, the numbers are growing. So the diesel generators generate nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, and particulate matter. So what we require is DPFs, which are diesel particulate filters, and selective catalytic reduction, SCR, control devices to reduce the health risks from these generators. Okay, next slide. All right, so this is the part that people think of us for. Next slide. So last September, the Air District, we amended our two wood burning rules. The first was Rule 6.3, which is the mandatory burn ban, which prohibits the use of wood burning fireplaces, outdoor wood burning devices, and recreational fires on spare the air days. So you get notices sometimes of spare the air. Right. So that's what happens on those days. And so what we did is we lowered the forecast threshold for declaring spare the air days. The other thing we did this year is Regulation 5, which governs outdoor wildland prescribed burns, which are intentional burns that are managed by local fire departments that help reduce wildfire risk. So you basically burn in the area in control ahead of time so that it doesn't fuel or feed a major wildfire. So obviously, that's a huge concern these days. So what we did is we expanded fee waivers for nonprofit organizations and landowners to encourage and streamline applications for these burns. So you might have heard we passed some other rules. Next slide. All right. So one major step the air district is taking to reduce emissions is by phasing out the sale of high polluting water heaters and furnaces, replacing them with clean appliances that do not emit nitrous oxide. This will also reduce the PM 2.5 emissions. As I mentioned, nitrous oxide linked to asthma, heart attacks, strokes, and even premature death. So this is truly an extremely serious health issue. Yes, there are co-benefits of climate action. There is greenhouse gas reductions because nitrous oxide is a greenhouse gas. But this is truly a health-based rule. One of my very first board meetings after you all appointed me was when this rule was considered back in 2023. And we had over 300 people live in chambers coming to give public comment. And many of them were wearing white coats because they were physicians. And a lot of them were pulmonologists, but some were obstetricians, neurologists, pediatricians, dermatologists, all asking us to pass this rule. And I remember one of them stood there and said, "You have the power to do something I can't. When a patient walks into my office, it's too late. They're already ill. You can prevent these premature deaths. You can prevent asthma and pulmonary disease, and we ask that you do that." But the thing that really got me was a middle school class from Oakland. Teacher came, and kids all stood at a podium like this, and the teacher sat in front of them to make them brave because there were 24 of us like this, but up on this big old podium. And they each told how they had done a survey in their class of asthma rates and other pulmonary disease and found that it was above the average for the Bay Area. And one little boy, he got up there, he talked about how he liked to play soccer and how he had a younger brother who he was trying to teach to play soccer and wanted to learn. But he couldn't because he had asthma that just kicked in every time they tried to play. And he said, "I'm here as a concerned sibling asking me to pass these rules." So it really is a health thing where we could avoid up to 85 premature deaths per year and $890 million annually in health-related care and costs. And that, that's really important right now. I mean, our county hospitals, we have Measure A to try to support them. We don't need unnecessary healthcare costs right now. So there's a lot of misinformation out there, and I'm happy to answer any questions afterwards if we don't have time now. But the rules basically start in 2027 with water heaters, and 2 years later they'll apply to furnaces. And it's a replace upon burnout. You don't have to go change it until your appliance conks out. You can repair your current appliance. You can keep it. But over probably about 20 years, eventually everybody will need a new appliance, and by then we'll have transitioned away from NOx emitting appliances. And when I say that, yes, those are gas appliances. They do emit nitrous oxide. There are patents and things on gas furnaces that don't emit nitrous oxides, but there's none on the market right now. So yes, that means a heat pump. So if that changes, that's fine, but the technology right now is the heat pump. It does not apply to stoves or fireplaces, just the water heater in 27 and the furnace in 29. All right. Next. Yeah, so you're on the right side. So the other thing I wanted to say, this is my last slide here. When we approved these amendments in 2023, we purposefully gave 4 years of lead time before the first one kicked in. And that was to really work with an independent working group of stakeholders and figure out, how do we do this? How do we help people comply? And what do we need to tweak? What do we maybe not get right on the first go? And so we required the staff come back 2 years ahead of the implementation date and give us a report on all of that. And that report covers market readiness, installation costs, infrastructure issues, and other topics. And so we got that report in December and we gave feedback. And then we got more public comment. And so the staff is now working on some amendments to tweak these rules to make them more flexible. And that will be coming out this fall. It'll go to one of our committees. We're also doing public workshops this fall. So please, if you or any of your constituents have questions, send them to our workshops. And then it will come to the board in the spring. And kind of like Obamacare, I pass it and then they tweak it. We'll probably tweak it in the spring. And we'll get more public comment then. So please encourage people to tell us about edge cases we need to cut out, other things that will help compliance, and we will listen. The same will be true, same is true of the furnaces. Their staff is working on that 2 years prior report now. I expect they'll probably recommend some tweaks to that too, but that's just starting underway right now. We're focused on the water heaters for 27. So that is what we're doing with those rules. I do have a fact sheet that Mr. Tran put together. It's called Myths versus Facts. So if this is helpful to any of you, I think he has some. Maybe we can put it on the table over there if anybody wants them. So this will help. It's sort of a cheat sheet, but is not true. Like I said, I'm getting a lot of emails that say things where I'm like, not the rule I voted on. So we just want to make sure that the facts are out there. So to wrap up, it has been an absolute privilege to represent this county on this board. And I just want to thank you for giving me that opportunity and for giving me the opportunity to come address you tonight.
Thank you so much, Vice Mayor Winker, for the work you do and for taking the time to come here tonight. I'm going to quickly take public comment first. Do we have public comment? I don't want to forget that. No. Okay. In the interest of time, one remark, I know we already lost one board member and I know a couple others have to go. You have some fact sheets. I'll just take a couple of quick comments. Please bear with me. So can you just give them to Mayor Kamai so that we can send them across the room, and send a soft copy to Shally so she can email that to us. Let's take a quick couple of comments. Otherwise, I can do a quick big thank you on behalf of all of us. Vicky, thank you so much to see you here for all the work you do. Thanks a lot.
I have a
Okay,
comment.
there's a comment. Please, Mayor.
Thank you.
one time.
So, you know, with the Newbie Island landfill, I'm glad that the Newbie Island landfill, I'm glad that you're working on that you're keeping track of, you do studies, right? And find out if there's a big, and I think they did do a study and they found out that they were one of the biggest polluters. So I'm glad that you're following up on that. But the other question that I have, and this is something that nobody talks about, it's our air flight industry. Tons and tons of jet fuel is being released in the air, but nobody seems to want to talk about it or to challenge the air flight industry. So are you guys going to be looking into that, or just because they're a big industry?
Agreed.
And so that's a huge polluter. I think they're responsible for our ozone being depleted, to be honest with you.
Palo Alto is an airport very, very close to my house. And so I wish we could. Those are mobile sources. We have authority over stationary sources, so that's more of a CARB thing. Is that correct? Yes. There are people trying to look at like independent source rules and things, but I think it's a tough ask with the FAA to give us jurisdiction over that. But I agree with you. I'd like for someone to delve into that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. At least I brought it up.
One last comment, because I'm beginning to lose people and then we're going to vote on the LAC bills. I can see JR sitting there, LAC chair. So one last comment.
I'd like to talk with you offline about my experience with heat pump water heaters. I'm on my third one.
Okay, I would be happy to, more than happy to. And you know how to reach.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about rushing things, but I know we had some robust discussion on a couple of other items. We are going to move very quickly. Thank you so much once again, Vice Mayor, for coming here and presenting and representing us on Bay Area Air District. J.R. Fruin, Legislative Action Committee Chair. 4 bills, potential bills for consideration by the Board of Directors here tonight. And these 4 were voted on, and the floor is yours, please.
Thank you very much. So tomorrow is the last day of the legislative session for all regular bills. So if you're hearing a lot of things out of Sacramento or not at all, that's why. If you do have a particular bill that you are most interested in, talk to your legislator tonight, tomorrow morning, quickly, whatever you need to do. Yeah, because you've only got one real remaining chance unless you want to go and try to ring the governor's door, and I'm not sure how effective. There are 4 bills that the LAC considered today. The LAC is requesting that you authorize us to submit letters in support of all 4 of them, and did so unanimously on each and every one. If you'd like, I can give you a quick synopsis of each, or we can abbreviate it since there was a broad consensus. What would you like, Madam President?
Why don't you give us that all 4 bills had unanimous support? We finished the meeting at 6:20. Normally we are running past 7 o'clock. If that helps, please do give at least a couple of sentences on each. And I think some of us were also in that meeting. Then we can take questions. That might be best in the interest of time. I'm seeing nods. Please.
I'll go quickly then. AB 670, which is an update to the general plan housing element annual progress report that every city has to make to HCD, would allow cities to count a percentage of existing multifamily buildings that were converted to affordable housing through the establishment of new long-term affordability covenant or deed restriction toward their RUNA quotas. AB 726 is a companion measure that would allow cities to report the number of deed restricted affordable homes that have been substantially rehabilitated using a certain amount of public funds. AB 476 by Gonzalez is a bill that would change the grouping of prohibited materials that junk dealers and recyclers may possess. It would increase record-keeping requirements for them, increase fines related to scrap metal theft, all in an effort to try to reduce the potential for damage to both public and private infrastructure and utilities motivated by the desire to steal valuable component materials, things like copper wire and iron that are constituent parts of things like electronics in streetlights and fire hydrants and manhole covers. SB 346 by Senator Durazo would enable cities to enact ordinances that require short-term rental facilitators, organizations like Airbnb and Booking.com, to provide specific information on their platforms of rentals, that includes campsites rather specifically, to the cities so that they can better collect transient occupancy tax. It has exceptionally broad support. It passed at every level of the legislature with overwhelming bipartisan support, but there is a lot of industry opposition. So we will be asking the governor to sign this one. That's it.
Thank you so much. Any questions, members of the board? I know about 50% roughly may have been there at LAC, like an hour and a half ago. Let's open public comment. Anyone online?
No one online has.
No one online. No
Move
one
to
in
approve.
the room. Thank you so much.
Second.
Motion to approve Mayor Turner, seconded by Councilmember Hines. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? None. Passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Can we, if you can, please stay for another 5-7 minutes. Let's quickly zip through this. I appreciate you all bearing with this a little longer meeting. We had a couple of presenters, and that invariably takes a little longer than what we want. Good subjects. Item number 10, we have Santa Clara County update from Steve Preminger. And I want to thank you quickly for being here every meeting, as well as last meeting having Board of Supervisors President Otto Lee and Supervisor Abe Koga, and also their offer to come to each city council meeting for informational updates on the effects of HR1. I understand that a couple of nights ago, Sunnyvale Council meeting had quite a presence and a discussion or questions asked.
That's essentially my report. We are finding ourselves in a very scary situation. So as we mentioned last month, we have asked all of you to let us come before your city councils. The value in that is we're able to have in some cases, a difficult discussion, but an important discussion about what is at stake here. And it really is about the health and safety of our residents. And as you mentioned, we were able to come before the city of Sunnyvale a couple of days ago. Linda was there as vice mayor and Tim was there as the city manager. I think the dialogue was real good. The presentation was way too long. Auto-Lee was there too. Oh my God, we're being recorded. I think we got a lot of good dialogue out, and I was very impressed with the city council because they had really done their homework to understand what it was that we were talking about. And I don't know, Linda, if you have any thoughts about the value of the presentation. But I think the residents as well as city council learned a lot from what we had to share.
I thought it was very good for our community. There were a lot of information that I didn't know. There were thousands of people from Sunnyvale that use the services, both, healthcare and trauma. So that was very surprising. And I think it was good because our council was able to express some concerns we have. And then the county was able to say, well, why don't we get together and work on it? Because we've had other traumatic, terrible, turbulent times, and we've come together and we've worked together on it. So I think we ended, my feeling, the meeting on a very positive note, that reminding us that we can work together and we will work together to get through this the whole presentation talked about what a situation it is. It's pretty large, but the county presented their mechanisms for dealing with it. And then we were able to express our concerns and we came together. I felt at the end. What did you feel?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vice Mayor Sell. Much appreciated your sharing your experience, because I do know the meeting went quite long. Do we have anything else?
No, I really just want to let people know we're here for that. We do want to have dialogue ongoing. That's my role. That's why I come here, so I can hear what you have to say, good, bad, or indifferent, and it's never indifferent. So
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Any public comment? Anyone online?
No one online.
Seeing none, any quick remark? If not, let's keep moving so that we can quickly wrap up. Couple more things. Item number 11, Santa Clara County City Managers Association update. We have Sunnyvale City Manager Tim Kirby. What do you have to report?
Nothing that I can't defer until the next meeting, that I can give an update then.
That's very kind of you. Number 12, Executive Director update, Shally.
I don't really have an update. It's business as usual for me, the stuff that I'm doing. Thank you for all of you whose membership dues have come in so far.
Thank you. Do we need to take public comment on that? I don't see any member of the public. Okay. Joys and challenges, item number 13. Anyone very quickly, any joys, because we will be adjourning in a moment of silence. I would deeply appreciate if people could stay here. Just please bear with me 5 more minutes. It is 9:11 and I want to adjourn the meeting in honor of our former colleague, Hangwei. So if you can just stay 5 more minutes. Any quick joys? Any challenges that cannot wait? I'll say one sentence, because this is rare. Saratoga, we had 2 ribbon cuttings, Monday and Tuesday. So that's good stuff. Monday we had used part of our ARPA money to put a public restroom in the village. It cost us $250,000, but we reallocated the money and we have 2 self-cleaning toilets for the public. Long awaited, really good. And the second one, this I do want to share. Community College, West Valley Mission Community College District. I believe, don't quote me on this, I believe they're the first in the nation. They have started free food service to the students. Wow.
Ribbon cutting yesterday.
Well, you had admission, we had at West Valley on Tuesday.
Yes.
And so $30 per week for the students. They have a great system. We saw, however, it's working, just phenomenal. So I needed to share the two joys this time. It's rare for us to have any ribbon cutting in Saratoga. Okay. That moves us to the end of the agenda item. And two things, as I mentioned, I would like to adjourn tonight's meeting. We are all, as a group, adjourning tonight's meeting in the memory of our former colleague, Hung Wei. Her story was one of service. She spent time on the Fremont Union High School District, the Rotary, the YMCA, and ultimately Cupertino City Council, also serving as mayor there. She served on the Cities Association board here and the executive committee. And she reminded us that public service is not about titles, but about people. She had her unique way of working. And even as she faced her greatest personal challenge, a battle of lung cancer 1 year ago, she was very open about it. She continued to show courage and optimism. She touched a lot of lives with her kindness and an unwavering belief in service, and leaves behind a legacy of vision and compassion that will continue to guide this community. As I said, today is also 9/11. It's a day of remembrance for all those we have lost, and especially what our country has faced on 9/11. Let's please take a moment of silence and then adjourn. Thank you all. The meeting is adjourned at 9:05 p.m.